Do you love TV shows? We do too. Hello everyone, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Anna, and we're the hosts of We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast hosted by us, a married couple with an endless love for TV.
Whether you're searching for a new favorite series or ready to revisit an old classic, we're here to guide you through an infinite world of TV shows.
Each episode, we watch and discuss the pilot for shows while also sharing personal stories that parallel the storyline.
So if you're tired of endlessly scrolling and not sure what to watch next, tune in and let us do the searching for you.
We Judge a Show by Its Pilot. New episodes every Tuesday and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Your new favorite show is just one click away. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our pod.
Hello. Hi. I don't know what I was about to say. But
Hi.
Hi. Hello. Happy Tuesday.
Happy
It's a Tuesday for us. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, it is a Tuesday. We just went and had some Italian food
Oh my God,
at one of
so
our
good.
favorite restaurants,
So
Ponte del
good.
Forno. If you live in the Greater Baton Rouge area, go to Denham Springs and try some Ponte del Forno. It's some of the best Italian food
It's so good.
locally you can find. Personal opinion. Yeah. So we've had a pretty You've had a productive day. It's my day off, and you
Yes.
originally were supposed to be out of town.
Yes.
And when you're out of town, my plan is usually to just kind of do nothing around the house.
You end up doing a lot of stuff because I
Yeah.
think you get bored
Yeah.
and lonely because I'm not here. But I think me actually being here, you actually do nothing because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, she's here. I'm good.
Yeah.
And I think when I'm gone, it's like when you're at work, especially on a Sunday, I go crazy doing everything.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to pass the time until you get
Yeah,
home.
I've done laundry.
Yeah. You did laundry.
Yeah.
You put together my Plinko board.
I put together your Plinko board.
I love it.
Got to play a couple rounds. Yeah, and I've been watching The Curious Case of Natalia Grace, and that is
Some crazy stuff.
some crazy stuff. I'm still not done with season 1, and it's insane. I'm not watching the Good American Family. I'm not watching the scripted version of it with Ellen Pompeo and Mark
Got you.
Duplass. Like, I'm not watching that just because it's very similar to, I think I compared it to like a Abducted in Plain Sight or The Act, where it's like I don't really need to watch a fictionalized version of this. Like,
We watched The Act.
You're
but-
right.
Yeah.
I think they did a scripted version of Abducted in Plain Sight, and I was like, I'm not watching that. So
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, that there are just certain things, child endangerment, that I just make me feel uncomfortable. I know watching a documentary, it's different, but it's real. But I don't know. Anyway, it's crazy. It's been insane watching it.
Yeah.
But we are continuing Anna Month, and we are now in the next chapter of your life. Let's see. So you've been to college. You did kind of your post-college
First job. I
with
was
girls,
teaching.
yeah.
I was teaching.
And didn't Hannah work as a teacher?
Yep. She was
Yep.
a teacher towards the end. So yep.
I remember that episode, and I remember watching an episode.
She was.
where
That's how she met Jake Lacey on the
okay,
show. Fran.
gotcha.
Yeah.
But today we are going to be delving into a chapter in your life to where when you worked in retail.
Yes. This is oddly enough one of the only points in my life that I was for 1 year not in school, teaching school.
Yeah.
Or anything.
Okay.
Yeah, like this was the year, and I did work retail for 3 years, but the first year I wasn't in any kind of school. I wasn't teaching. This was my full-time job.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, so today we are talking about one of our both of one of our all-time favorite shows of all time, and that's a legit fact. That's not just an exaggeration. This is a show that we watch on the regular, and I consider it to be one of the funniest shows ever. We are talking about Superstore.
Love it.
And so we're going to talk about Anna's era with working in retail. We're going to talk about my very short stint of working in retail.
Yep.
And but before we do all that, Anna's going to do what she does and give us some episode and series information.
All right. Superstore. The pilot. Superstore was an American sitcom that aired on NBC from November 30th, 2015 to March 25th, 2021 for 6 seasons and a total of 113 episodes. The series was created by Justin Spitzer, originally a writer for The Office. Spitzer would go on to create American Auto and most recently St. Denis Medical. The pilot was written by Spitzer and was directed by Ruben Fleischer, perhaps best known for directing both Zombieland films as well as the first Venom film. Superstore revolves around the staff of Cloud9, a fictional big box chain store in St. Louis, Missouri. The main cast includes America Ferrera as Amy Sosa, a hard-working floor supervisor, Ben Feldman as Jonah Sims, one of the newest sales associates with an overly optimistic personality, Lauren Ash as Dina Fox, the intense, no-nonsense assistant store manager, Nico Santos as Mateo Lawanag, the newest sales associate who is constantly competing with Jonah, Colton Dunn as Garrett McNeil, the sarcastic customer service associate who also does the in-store announcements, Nicole Sakura as Cheyenne Lee, a pregnant high school age sales associate, and Mark McKinney as Glenn Sturgis, the incessantly positive store manager. Superstore started off with mixed reviews and average ratings, falling into the category of just another workplace comedy. However, as time went on, Superstore began gaining a bigger following, and by the end of the second season, the series had become a hit. Not just our opinion, the series finale for Superstore is considered one of the best of recent times.
You're not going to hear us arguing about that.
Yeah. You can currently watch the entire series on Hulu and Peacock.
All right. So before we talk about your era of working in retail, we just really need to talk for a little bit about how much we love this show.
Oh, my God.
And how we came to be. So I hadn't always heard of this show, but I've been hearing about this show for a little while, and the main reason why I kept kind of getting drawn to it is because Ben Feldman was in it, and As Above, So Below is like I say one of my favorites, legitimately one of my favorite movies is As Above, So Below. I think I used to watch it like once a week or 2 or 3 times a week. I was so obsessed with that movie. And Ben Feldman is in it. He's absolutely fantastic in it. And I would always be like, what else is he in? And the most recent thing would always be Superstore. And I'd be like, what is Superstore? And I'd click on Superstore. I'd see America Ferrera. I'd see Mark McKinney. I remember Colton Dunn, who worked for Animal Control on Parks and Rec. Absolutely, absolutely hilarious. And I was just like, what? Why don't I watch this show? And I just never did. And I remember one night I'd already moved in here. And it was the era when you were So when I first moved in with Anna, this is 2017, and this is like the height of when you used to like fall asleep at like 9 o'clock at night.
Oh yeah.
And wake up at like 5 a.m.
Yeah, I was up early, sleeping early.
Right. And this was like you could not stay up. I mean, you were in such a like routine with like traveling and getting up at a certain time to do your work stuff. Like you were out. I mean, you were out by like 9 o'clock. And so there were the first like year or two of our relationship, there were a lot of nights where I would just stay up and watch stuff because you were out by like 9 or 9:30. And I hadn't gotten into that habit of falling asleep early. And now we kind of fall asleep around the same time now.
Yes.
We kind of caught up.
We're in our
to each other.
Circadian rhythm together.
And so this was one of those shows that, like, I remember I put on the pilot. You were kind of in your, when you do the thing where you're like, I'm not sleeping, but you're sleeping thing. And you're like, I'm not falling asleep, but you were falling asleep kind of thing. And so I was like, I turned on Superstore, and you were kind of like half listening to it. And I remember something in the pilot made you laugh, and you were like, what is this? And I was like, it's Superstore. And I think you recognized like America Ferrera and like Mark McKinney.
Yeah, because I watched Ugly Betty, and obviously Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, and Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and she's been in so much stuff, Lords of Dogtown. And I was like, oh, okay. And so like you seemed interested in it. So I turned off the pilot, and then we started watching probably the next day, and we never stopped watching.
Oh yeah. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And I just remember initially just the pilot, I was like, that is exactly what retail is
right.
like. I just was like, they nailed it.
Yeah.
Someone who's worked retail wrote and casted and produced show running this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your, and we can kind of keep talking about Superstore and kind of compare and contrast a few things, but so what was your first, so the pilot, it's Jonah and Mateo's first day at Cloud9. Do you remember when you first started working in retail? Like, what led you? I know because you just told me the story at the restaurant, and I have to remember that we didn't say this on the record because I was about to be like, you already talked about that, but I was like, no, that was at dinner. So what led you to working in retail? Like, what was going on in your life? How did you end up working there?
So I had lost my job teaching in like the late spring of 1995. And so like that summer, and I was pretty specialized. I was a Spanish teacher. And living in Monroe, Louisiana, there aren't that many high schools around.
Right.
And so it was really hard to get a teaching job in a school in Monroe or even West Monroe, Louisiana. And keep in mind, at the time, I didn't have a car still. I was rooming with my roommate, Pam, and I would actually drop her off at her job, and then I would go to my job to teach, and then I would pick her up because it was crazy. She had to be at her job really early, and she had to stay always really late. So it was like sometimes the gods were looking out for us. So anyway, so I lost my job in May, and I had applied with like the city and the parish trying to get another job. There were no Spanish teaching jobs available around town. And then this was the summer that she and I did our shag road trip to South Carolina. We had heard about a South Carolina teacher job fair, and Pam was definitely like of the mindset of like, I'll move anywhere.
Yeah.
And so we decided to go to this teacher's job fair. I think I had been to South Carolina once in my life, like on a family trip, but I don't think Pam had ever been.
I'm just thinking about Shaq. Sorry.
Turn
on the radio.
Turn on the radio. And
sorry.
So we had gone. I actually insanely got like 3 job offers. But she did not get any. And I wasn't going to be moving to South Carolina by myself.
Right.
I mean, again, like, I was, 25 or so at the time. And so we left and we were like, okay, we finished and we went to like Atlanta. We went to Tennessee. We came back down to Mississippi. And that whole summer, she kept trying to talk to people in South Carolina to see if there were any openings. And she was an elementary school teacher, so those are usually a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Like there are always elementary school teachers graduating. That was why she had a difficult time.
Right.
And so finally, like by early August, like she wasn't getting anything and she had to start planning to go back to her job in Monroe. And I hadn't heard from anywhere in Monroe. So the money was running out for me. And I was like, I guess I'm going to have to move home. And so my mom and my sister came up to Monroe and moved me back to New Orleans. I was going back home. It was the first time I had moved back home since moving to Monroe. In 1987, so it had been like about 8 years.
Yeah.
And so I was living back at home, filed for unemployment, got unemployment, but part of unemployment, you have to go and look for jobs every week and like say like 2 or 3 places. I remember back in the day, it was like paper. You had to like write it down on this little ticket and submit it or mail it in or something. And so I would go to the mall and go and apply at a couple of stores. I applied with the parish school board. There were just no Spanish teaching jobs available. I actually got offered to teach chemistry, and I was like, do you want me to blow up the school?
Right.
Like, what are you talking about?
That's funny.
And so my sister suggested that I go to Maison Blanche, which if you're from Louisiana, South Louisiana, big popular big box department store. It was like Godshaw's. It was part of like the Gayfers family. If you're from, Alabama, Mobile.
Like Sears, J.C. Penney.
Exactly.
Stuff like that.
Yeah,
something
Dillard's,
like that.
DH Homes back in the day.
Dillard's. That was one I was trying to think of. Yeah.
Belk, McRae's, Macy's, all of those kind of big box. So I went there and applied to be seasonal help. They, I think, essentially offered me a job like on the spot. I think I had also gotten a job at Claire's, but I figured Maison Blanche would definitely be more opportunity.
Yeah.
And then, as I told you at dinner, I said, I think I got a job at Athlete's Foot. And you were like, Foot Locker? I was like, that's it.
I don't think
Athlete's Foot would be
Athlete's Foot.
Yeah, would be a great
That was really
point.
funny. I forgot that you said that.
Yeah, and
Foot Locker? Yeah.
I decided I didn't want to deal with people's feet.
That's
like
good call. Good
as
call.
a job,
Yeah.
like on the day-to-day, especially like sports.
Yeah.
So I got the job, and we actually had to go through a training, which included counting money. We had to prove that we knew what all the denominations of bills and coins were.
Yeah.
I was telling you also that this was back in the day when a lot of like store credit cards didn't actually have a mag stripe on them. So like my Maison Blanche card just had the numbers, and you had to manually type those in. And then even the credit cards, we still did the like the what do you call it? I said it at dinner.
Carbon copy.
The carbon copies, yeah, of the credit cards, and you swiped it on the little credit card machine that like did the imprint of the credit card raised numbers. So credit cards still had raised numbers in like the mid 90s.
Imprinter.
Yeah. So we had to learn how to use that. We had to, again, count money, count change. We were taught like about the products that were going to be in the department that we were working on. So I was in the accessories department, which included casual handbags, designer handbags, fashion jewelry, pantyhose and foundations, socks and things like that. And so I loved it because I loved all of those things. It was definitely a department that I enjoyed. I was thankful that I wasn't in like real clothing like juniors, because those departments were usually a nightmare by the end of the night. But it was fun. I learned marketing. I learned how to do displays. I got to go to, I forgot also watches, because we got to go to like, sometimes some of the vendors would come to the main branch of Maison Blanche downtown. And like some of the top associates would get to go to like see the vendors. And so like we got to talk to people from Coach and Dooney and Burke, Fossil watches, yes. And sometimes like the people that were coming would bring us actual like product of what it was, as a thank you for being like a top sales associate. So I remember getting like a little mini Coach bag. Nice. I think I actually still have that. I think I went to several Fossil like talks. I don't know what they would call it, presentations. And so like each time we would get like a Fossil watch, we could pick one. So I would pick one for me, or pick one for my mom, pick one for my sister, and I just always was in Fossil watches. And then like jewelry was really fun, because this was back in the day before like brides had a lot of options of going to find bridal jewelry, and we had a lot of like bridal jewelry, like the pearls and the like the fake gems that were all pink or blue or green, and we would help brides pick out like their jewelry for their bridesmaids and things like that. Displaying, merchandising, hats and purses and all of those things. It was a really fun learning experience in my department. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one of our favorite episodes of Superstore, possibly one of our favorite episodes from any show, is Black Friday.
Oh yeah.
And we also love a horror movie called Thanksgiving, which there's a Black Friday massacre.
Oh yeah.
At the beginning of the movie.
It could have happened.
Okay, so anyone that's seen Superstore or seen any kind of interpretation of Black Friday, how far off are they? Are they exaggerating on these shows, or do you feel like they're pretty accurate with how Black Fridays are?
Pretty accurate, I will say, pre-pandemic.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because even back...
I mean, like, while you were working in retail.
Yes, well, while I was working, and then even up until, I will say... until Rebecca and them lived in Houston, because we had a tradition that we would go shopping on Black Friday because there would be stores that would give away gift cards. Like Macy's gave away sometimes like a 15 or a 20. Like sometimes it was random, and like you would find out what your gift card was when you checked out. We would all go. It would be me, my mom, Rebecca, Sess, even Patrick. So we got 5 gift cards. We just walked in.
Damn.
And, but working at Maison Blanche, so our big thing back in the day to draw people in was Cracker Jack. So I don't know if you remember Black Friday Cracker Jack boxes.
I do not.
They would be store employees giving out the Cracker Jack boxes at each of the entrances of Maison Blanche. So there was the mall entrance and then 3 parking lot entrances on the outside of the store, of the building. And so on the outside of the 3 to the parking lots, there would be people lined up. I mean, kind of like Superstore on Black Friday, that episode. Now, mind you, we didn't sell electronics at Maison Blanche. It was mostly just clothing, makeup and perfume, shoes, and home goods.
Clothing accessories.
Yes, and home, bedding, china, like stuff like that. But no electronics. So we didn't have like TVs and stuff and appliances. But people would line up because within each Cracker Jack box was like a coupon for that whole day to get off shopping. So like 20%, 25%. And Maison Blanche's fatal flaw that I still say to this day was the fact that you could shop with a coupon, with the sale, with a discount, and they had an unlimited return policy.
Ooh.
So,
yeah,
on like Black Friday, I could get a Cracker Jack box for like 20% off, get my store 25% discount, and if the item was on sale, it would be on top of that as well. So it was like nuts. I mean, all of the employees also were like shopping that day like maniacs as well. But people would line up because there were also prizes in the boxes at every store. There would be a trip. There would be a diamond ring.
Oh my God.
And I can't think of what the third one was. It might have been like cash or something. I don't remember. But I know for sure it was like a diamond ring and a trip, and it was on like a coupon or something. But I mean, there wasn't like a real ring in the box because who knows what would have happened to that box. But I remember one year Rebecca, my mom, and Patrick came, and I think Patrick went in and out of like every door like to get a Cracker Jack box. I was like, there wasn't any like rule against it, you know. So it was like, but I remember like at the Macy's in Houston when we went one year after Thanksgiving, it was, I think people had maybe started trying to do stuff like that, so they only let you in one door.
Gotcha.
And they kind of had people there like looking to see if you had been in already. But at Maison Blanche, you could come in any of the 3 doors. So like, I think Patrick came in one, got his box, opened it up to see what it was. If it was a coupon, he gave it to, my sister. He ran out and went to the another door and came back in, got his box to see what the prize was, and then would go to the 3rd door. And probably by the 3rd door, like they were out of boxes
Yeah.
because people
Yeah.
would, it was already, too late. But I always volunteered to work Black Friday because the store opened at like 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, on an 8-hour work shift, you were done by 2 o'clock,
yeah.
including a lunch thrown in there. So it was like the best day to work because it also went by extraordinarily
I can't imagine
fast.
how fast that day
It
went
was
by. Yeah.
just like
a blur.
nonstop. Because the other thing was my department was right by the up and the down escalator.
Okay.
So people might go up and then come back down and check out with us if they wanted to just do like one stop.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'd be like, okay, I want all of this from your department. I'm
Yeah.
going to run up to juniors or to the home section. I'll be right back down. And they would then just come and check out massively with us, which was nice because, it helped our sales quota for the day. But so Black Friday, I think that is what tickles me about that episode, is that was to me very realistic, minus the fact that we didn't have like electronics and people trying to bribe us for things.
Yeah.
But it was pretty crazy. Yeah, we didn't have like the buffet breakfast, but it was, people wanted to work Black Friday because one, your sales would be good that day, and it went by really fast.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I only worked in retail. I worked for Office Depot for like a month, and it was very monotonous. It was very much the same thing every day. It was stocking things. That's pretty much what I did all day long. I didn't really have any like customer interactions or anything. Do you have any memories of like a specific customer ordeal that you had?
Well, I will say kind of generally my favorite customers, because I was in accessories and it covered like jewelry, handbags, watches, things like that. I loved Valentine's, Mother's Day, Christmas, because men would come in, I kid you not, at like 4 p.m. on Valentine's Day and go, put together something for me. I don't care what it is. I'll buy it. Like, because they would just be like, I need to get my wife, my girlfriend, my mom, something. And so those were always great because you were just like, all right, I'm getting ready to make like $150 sale, or like, here, she would love this like little Dooney purse and this like matching wallet, and they'd be like, or a keychain, and they'd be like, wrap it up. And so those were fun. I will also say that unfortunately our store dealt a lot with theft, and because my department was jewelry, even though it was costume jewelry, people still stole it a lot. It was crazy. And security was like right by our section. Yeah. And so juniors and our department, accessories, were probably the two most stolen from. So it was just nuts sometimes to see security literally running up the down escalator to go to juniors, because juniors was directly above us.
Gotcha.
So it was just like you would see like out the corner of your eye security running out, and you were like, okay, no one's in my department, so it's got to be upstairs. And then you would just hear like the commotion upstairs. But I'll never forget one year, like big upper management came to check out our departments, and they were like, well, what do you think are some of the biggest issues? And I was like, well, obviously theft. And they were like, well, what could we do to prevent it? And I said, well, it's just really hard because all the costume jewelry is out. Yeah. And they were like, well, it takes, they have to like put it in their pocket and, take it off the rack. And I'm like, not necessarily. So I remember going up to one of the racks. And so I don't know if you can get this vision in your head of like how earrings are on like a little cardboard card. And the spinner that they were on was something you would like push in. Like, okay. And so you could spin the earring spinner and you would see all the little cards of earrings, like the hoops, the posts, all the different styles, the dangling ones. And anytime we would see one card that was empty on the spinner, I was like, she was like, well, where are those earrings? And I'm like, they've been stolen.
Yeah.
And we would look up the number, and it was always like the fake diamond studs. And so I was like, it's probably guys stealing the fake diamond studs for like their single earring,
Gotcha.
you know, to like look cool or whatever. And when they would look up the item number, it was like the fake, you know, cubic zirconia, you know, solitaire. They were like, oh my gosh. So I was like, but it's also impossible to put all these things in the case because this is, you know, it's costume jewelry. So it has to be out for people to see. So it was a really hard department to work because of the theft and stuff like that. But I mean, customer wise, I mean, everyone was always pretty nice. And again, as I mentioned, one of the things was unlimited returns. And this was back when you didn't have to have a receipt. There was no time restriction. So it could be like 5 years later. Because all of the Maison Blanche tags had a special code with the month and the year that it was an item on the floor.
Okay.
I mean, there would be people that would bring in something and it would say 581 on the ticket. So I would know that that was something that was purchased in May of 1981.
Wow.
Now, the problem was it wouldn't come up in the system because it was obviously like 25 years old or 15, 16 years old. Sorry, my math is bad. Obviously. And so anytime that happened, there was a default that all we could return them was $2.50 or something like that, or like $1.50. So if some lady walked up with a handbag that was 10, 15 years old and it didn't ring up in the system, I would have to tell her, like, I can only give you $2.50 for this, even if the tag on it said $50.
Gotcha.
I'm like, sorry. I mean, obviously I can show you this is the date. And they would argue with you a bit. And I'm like, look, you either want the $2.50 or you don't, you know, and a lot of times they would just pout and leave with their bag. Or just take the $2.50. So I was just like, you know, I don't know if this has just been in your closet for 15 years and you're finally coming in to like just return it because you never used it. Or I don't know where you got this bag at like a garage sale that still had the tag on it or something. So, you know, I mean, I think customer wise, everyone was always pretty nice. I can't think of a time that anyone was super, super mean. I mean, there was probably a customer that was mean, but I think I always blame that kind of thing. They were having a bad day and decided to take it out on me because I'm like some peon at a department store. So like, you know, I don't make the prices. I don't, you know, make those decisions.
Right.
So yeah. But again, like I said, the men coming in to shop Christmas, Valentine's, Mother's Day, those were always my favorite because I knew I could get them to buy anything I put out in front of them.
What was your favorite place to eat in the food court?
Oh, trying to think. Like,
you got to work in a mall. Like, I didn't fully register in my head until we talked about it earlier today. I was like, you worked in a mall, you worked in a food court. Like, I'm just thinking about the food court at the Mall of Louisiana when I was in high school.
We had Chick-fil-A, but Chick-fil-A for me was really expensive because, mind you, this was 1995, and I swear, I think if you want to look it up, minimum wage was like $2.87. I think it was something like that. So I was making like $15 or $20 a shift. I mean, that's all I was making. So me going to the food court happened maybe on like a long 8-hour shift if I had like a full hour. But if I was only working 6 hours, I only got 30 minutes.
$4.25 an hour.
$4.25. See, I wasn't too far off. So a lot of times I would bring my lunch. But, I mean, we had Chick-fil-A. We had Sbarro. There was like Panda King or something like Panda something that was like Chinese food. We had a daiquiri place. Of course, we could not drink and go back to work. But sometimes if we got off during the day, we'd go and get a daiquiri. But that was also something else. It was funny. Like I think about ladies' lunch a lot. A couple of us would go to Bennigan's after.
Ew.
And then there was like another bar. I can't think of the name of it. I'll have to look at the maps. I think it's still there. I don't know if it's called the same thing. But we would go and like have a cocktail or something after work and just go hang out because a lot of us like were friends and all different ages. I mean, I would say I was like middle grade because there were young kids that were late teens, early 20s. I was late 20s, and there were certainly people much older than us in their, 40s and 50s, which was much older than us at the time that we thought. But, they had been lifers. They had been there through like Godshaws and all the iterations of what had happened. And so, that was my sort of memory of working at Maison. Okay. Loved it. Loved Black Friday. They were good to me too. Also, when I started law school a year later in 1996, I had been, I will say, a really good employee. I never called in sick. I always volunteered to work the holidays because it was time and a half in pay, a whole $6. And then, again, I was always willing to work whatever shift because I didn't have like any other obligations. So when I started law school, they didn't want to lose me. And so they were like, whatever you want to work, we will put on the schedule. So like I would work Thursday and Friday afternoons and then all day Saturday and then like, half a day Sunday, like 12 to 6 or something. So they were good to me. And then like third year of law school, I got a law firm job. And actually that fall of 1998, Dillard's bought them.
Oh, okay.
And they turned our store into a clearance store, which even tugged my heart more at the end of Superstore when their store was the clearance store. And I was like, oh my God, my store was the clearance store. And oh my gosh, it was nuts in there at that time.
I can't even imagine. Yeah.
So, that was great because I remember like everything was like clearanced, half off. Then we got our discount. Yeah. Then we got, if there were coupons, we could use coupons. And again, I'm telling you, this is why Maison Blanche went under. It was like a bad business model. Because like, let's just say if something was $100 and it was on clearance half off, that was $50. And then if you could use a coupon for 20% off, that was another $10. So that was $40. And then I could use my discount, which was 25% off. So that was another $10. So something that started as $100 was down to $30. Right. And so, I mean, that is massive. Yeah. So I was just always like waiting for stuff to be on clearance. And now that Maison Blanche no longer exists, and I really have maybe one or two friends on Facebook from Maison Blanche, and they probably did this themselves. We would hide stuff all the time in our storage rooms and like hope no one found it until it went on clearance. And so when we would get our clearance markdowns, we'd be like, oh, that like, purse or that shirt that we hid that we found is now on clearance. So we would hide stuff. I know everyone did it. So it was pretty crazy. Right. Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Well, fun little chapter in your life.
Fun little chapter, my Maison Blanche days. Thank you to Rebecca for encouraging me to apply there. Aww. They were good to me. That's how I bought a lot of my law school professional clothes and suits and pantyhose and my nice heels that I got started with my career. Because I mean, again, I got stuff on sale with a discount and a coupon, and when you're a student, it's hard to buy stuff like that.
And even after you left, you'd still go back and shop there. And
well, it became a Dillard's, so it became Dillard's, and I mean, but then I left after the next year, moved to Seattle, so it was like a year later I was gone.
That's true.
So yeah,
all right,
good times.
Yeah, you want to get this pilot summary?
Let's do it.
Superstore pilot summary. At the Cloud9 store, 1217, a superstore in St. Louis, Missouri, floor supervisor Amy Dubinowski is selling a knockoff engagement ring to Bo, not knowing he is the boyfriend of fellow employee Cheyenne Lee, who is pregnant with his child. She tells store manager Glenn Sturgis she's taking a break. Jonah Sims is being interviewed by assistant manager Dina Fox, who is attracted to him and asks him several personal questions. That scene was really funny.
Yes.
Jonah is hired and runs to help a customer who he thinks has knocked down a toilet paper display. He's somewhat high-handed with the customer, and it's not until Cheyenne asks the customer for a break that Jonah realizes he's talking to a fellow employee who is Amy. At his first step, At his first staff meeting in the break room, Jonah further offends Amy. Glenn asks new employees, Mateo and Jonah, to introduce themselves. Mateo is a gregarious high achiever and sees Jonah as a rival. Glenn wants to end the meeting by reading from the Bible, but Dina has reported him to corporate and he isn't allowed. They argue, and then Glenn welcomes them to Cloud 9. Jonah gets work advice from wheelchair-bound Garrett McNeil and finds out that Amy is the floor supervisor. Jonah tries to apologize for his earlier behavior, but ends up further offending Amy. He also finds that she doesn't wear name tags with her real name, which she won't tell him. To get Jonah out of her hair, she gets him to reduce electronic items to 25% off, a 25% off sale price. Amy sees Bo proposing to Cheyenne and stops her before she can reply. Amy asks Cheyenne to think it over before she replies. An unattended baby jumps in a playpen. So there's always like these cuts to like random store activity throughout every episode, and in this one there's a baby by the baby by itself in a playpen. Jonah is repricing the items and waves at Amy down the aisle. Dina is behind Amy and thinks Jonah is waving at her. Amy notices many customers grabbing electronics and rushing to check out. Turns out Jonah has accidentally repriced the items to 25 cents instead of reducing the original price by 25%. Amy rushes to shut the store down and chaos ensues. Customers rush the exit until Dina blocks their way and shoots a shotgun into the ceiling and announces the sale is over. Another staff meeting is held to review what happened, and Jonah mouths an apology to Amy, who smiles back. Dina overhears Jonah asking Garrett if employees can date supervisors and smiles, thinking Jonah means her. Later, Amy tells Jonah he should concentrate on not messing up instead of having fun. He believes in looking for beauty in the everyday and throws a plastic bag in front of in front of the air in front of Brett, which is a reference to American Beauty. She walks away not impressed. Two customers smash their carts together. Yeah, so this is another kind of cut to like two customers. I'm sure this happens every single day.
All the time.
Dina has Cheyenne put eyeliner on her, anticipating a date with Jonah. Mateo tries to ingratiate himself to Amy and tattles that Jonah is goofing off in the parking lot. Jonah, Garrett, and Glenn are canoeing shopping carts. Glenn wins until Amy pushes Jonah's cart into a car. And so then we see another cut of an unattended child using a potty in the middle of an aisle. Amy brings, I think at this point there is an employee that walks past this, sees it, and then just keeps walking.
Just keeps going.
Amy brings Jonah a peace offering and explains while she is holding a box of glow stars that she's serious at work because every day and every year is the same. It's closing time when a masked armed robber bursts in and yells for everyone to get down on the ground. He rips off his ski mask. It's Bo. He performs a flash mob marriage proposal for Cheyenne. Dina has already crawled away to the surveillance room and reported a code green to the police. After advertising himself, Bo kneels and asks Cheyenne to marry him. Dina believes that the hostage is about to be shot and turns. So she's seeing all this from the security cameras.
Right.
So she thinks, and she doesn't see Bo's face. So she thinks Cheyenne is being held hostage and is being like attacked by the robber, who is Bo, who's actually proposing to her. Dina believes that the hostage is about to be shot and turns off the store lights to create confusion. The ceiling is covered with glow stars put up by Jonah. Everyone stares up in awe, and Jonah has created a moment of beauty, and Amy smiles. So we talk about the series finale a lot, and so there's a big full circle moment in the series finale that there is a reference to the glow stars.
And this will absolutely be one of our December series finales.
Absolutely.
So keep on until December.
In the parking lot, while the police deal with Bo, Cheyenne tells everyone that she accepted Bo's proposal. Cheyenne hugs Jonah and says that if he hadn't put up the star, she might not have accepted. Amy leaves and Jonah catches up with her and explains he just wanted this day to be different for her. She says thanks and tells him her name. Jonah leaves with Garrett to horrify garbage collectors by placing mannequin limbs in the dumpster, while Amy looks up at the night sky, smiles, and then puts her wedding ring on.
Oh, yeah.
End of episode. So Jonah's interested in Amy. He doesn't know she's married.
Yes.
So yeah, that's Superstore. I can't believe I got 2 pages out of that. Yeah,
I loved it. It introduced everyone in the setting. I mean, on rare occasions, they leave the store for various things throughout the series.
Well, one of your favorite episodes is Golden Globes, where they're at Amy's house.
Oh, my God. Golden Globes, Ladies' Lunch.
Yeah.
I mean, all of those are, I could watch this all the time.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, so I would say this is a pretty perfect pilot. Like, this is a pretty perfect, it's a lot like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where, like, and it's funny how much, I'm not going to say easier, how much more seamless it feels when it's 22 minutes and how easy it is compared to like when we watch some of our like 90-minute pilots where they're setting us up for so much stuff. I really love the 22-minute shows where it just feels very simple. By the end of episode 1, you know all of these characters. We've known a Cheyenne. We've worked with Adina. We know a Jonah. Some of us are a Jonah. Some of us are an Amy. Like, another A and J, another J and A.
And we dressed up like Amy and Jonah for Halloween a couple of Halloweens ago. We still have our little Cloud9 vests that I made for us in our bedroom on our chairs.
It was very cute.
We were cute.
And so I highly recommend. If you've never seen Superstore, I don't know what you're doing. You need to go watch it. It's so
immediately.
It's so super funny. If you haven't seen it in a while, I definitely recommend re-binging it. It's such an easy show to rewatch. Hulu and Peacock, they're still on there. So I think that about wraps up this one.
I think it does.
All right, that wraps up this episode. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on whichever platform you're listening to this podcast on. That way you'll be notified every time we publish a new episode. We're also, you can also follow us on Instagram at We Judge Pilot Pod. We're also on Facebook. Leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. What you got?
All right, for Superstore, I have a cloud and then the number 9 that's in like the blue block. The store, because they have like a 24-hour store building, so that's like a store. The diamond ring, a fox for Dina, the wheelchair for Garrett, the toilet paper, the toilet for the potty for the kid, the gun, the police, a baby. There's a sales receipt, a pregnant lady, and then the stars.
Of course.
All right, well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.